Wait, you forgot to do the food. This is the food review.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna let it record for like ever. Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Food Review. Today I'm here with Jesus or Christian Munoz, and we're going to be taking a more serious approach on a video today.
Yes, today we'll be talking about Miss Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. More specifically, a specific character named Septimus and his mental health.
So I know that you have read Mrs. Dalloway, and I was wondering what your thoughts were on the book so I can give my viewers a better sense of the book.
Yes, well, first of all, this book was an enjoyment, and it had a very, a roller coaster of emotions and events, and I'm sure that you experienced these emotions too. First of all, the first reason I enjoyed this was getting to learn about each and every individual character. The book clearly expressed each separate emotion of each character, and I feel like this gave readers a perspective on how everyone is different, yet so similar.
I agree with you that the book showed different emotions and personalities within the various characters. The way the book was set up was interesting too. The way that the perspectives was switched so suddenly but also fluently from one character to another was an interesting choice. I enjoyed it because it was kind of cinematic in my head.
Yes, cinematic. That is a perfect word. I treated those transitions the exact same way. And it was, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, it's as if the camera was in on a specific character. It would zoom out of that town or place or wherever it was, and then it would just zoom back in on a different character. And that's exactly how I pictured it. And here's an example if you don't know what we're talking about.
Oh my gosh, okay.
So quick.
Okay, I imagine it like that too. Like in the beginning on the book, of the book on page 14, when we saw Clarissa looking at a big car outside of the flower shop that had just passed by, and then we switched to Septimus Smith, another character who was also looking at the car. It was a really smooth transition.
Yes, I exactly remember that exact transition, and it was also the very first time we got to meet Septimus and learn about his specific character. I also think that Septimus is, in some ways, represented by Virginia Woolf.
I know that Virginia Woolf struggled with mental health issues and was always writing about death and questioning human existence, and I think she represented her own thoughts and questions about life through this Septimus character.
And I know also that it wasn't only Septimus that these thoughts were reflected onto. On page 9, Clarissa reflects on life as she questions, did it matter that she must inevitably cease completely? All this must go on without her. Did she resent it, or did it not become consoling to believe that death ended absolutely? She kind of questions her purpose in life and her worth.
I think that every human, at least once in their life, questions their existence or their purpose in life. And it doesn't have to be a negative thing like it was with Septimus. I think that it's in human nature to question why we're here, because not necessarily when we're born are we given a reason as why we're here on this earth. And I know that I have questioned my existence multiple times.
Oh yeah, I have also questioned my existence multiple times, and I think many of these characters, they all think about that, what is the meaning of life question. But as you placed it, Septimus does think of it in more of a negative way, and which some other characters just don't. He looks at his life as a pain or a struggle to go through, and because he views it like this, he decides that life would be better off to just not have it.
And I think a lot of the struggle and pain from Septimus came from the PTSD that was caused by him serving in the war, having a friend killed right in front of him in the war, and also marrying someone even though he felt emotionless. And he considers those his 3 crimes, which will come up later. And all of this in the end kind of contributed to him committing suicide.
Yeah, precisely. But in addition to that, I also think he was so afraid and felt so trapped by these doctors that were taking care of him. He called Dr. Holmes the repulsive brute with the blood-red nostrils. He said that Holmes was onto him, and he was always terrified that they would catch him, and I think that is also what ultimately caused him to jump out of the window. And I personally think that these doctors could have done a way better job at helping Septimus.
Yeah, I agree. They could have definitely done a better job. I was reading this source called Life Was Good, The Sun Was Out, which is part of the book, Septimus Smith, Sanity and Suicide by Kat Blackwell Starnes. And this article said that when Septimus was trying to express why he felt as he did, he was talking about those crimes that I mentioned earlier. Dr. Bradshaw ignores the statement entirely. Also, the article points out that after Septimus tells the doctors what's wrong, the conversation about a cure for him or help isn't even discussed between between Dr. Bradshaw and Septimus. It's discussed between Dr. Bradshaw and Lucrezia, Septimus's wife. And Dr. Bradshaw doesn't really talk about anything in that respect with Septimus, and in my opinion, Dr. Bradshaw kind of treats Septimus like a little kid. And also, Kat, the author of the article, points out that Dr. Bradshaw and Lucrezia leave Septimus, and the doctor and Lucrezia are, quote, continuing the consultation in another room, physically excluding Septimus from the conversation that will determine not only his current treatment, but also the judgment of his mental health. Septimus has no voice in the diagnosis and can only accept the doctor's say.
Yes, and I think that argument is absolutely accurate. I agree that I think that these doctors made Septimus worse in a way. From that same article by Kat Blackwell Starnes, it also talks about when Septimus was considering his suicide towards the end of the novel. Septimus's decision is that of the rational, coherent individual, not the man plagued by mental illness earlier in the novel. And he made this decision as a lucid individual, and it was his only option for him in that moment because his doctors were coming to get him. And he didn't truly want to die, and Virginia Woolf made that very clear. She said he did not want to die. Life was good, the sun was hot, and he made that decision to end his life because of these doctors.
Yeah, I completely agree. The way that Dr. Bradshaw decided to send Septimus into the country, alone, only to be checked on once a week, would definitely cause Septimus to make that final decision. He has hated his doctors for a long time, ever since he came back from the war and started seeing them, and he felt that that was the only way to escape from them. Also, the fact that Dr. Bradshaw is treating him like he has a physical disease and is trying to send him away also seems like he's trying to get rid of Septimus from the community and society of London.
Yeah, and talking about trying to get rid of him, I think during this time period that this book was written, mental health wasn't really talked about, and it wasn't really a conversation to be had. It was considered more of a taboo topic, and everyone was kind of scared to talk about it. There was a lot of stigma around things like depression, anxiety, and PTSD, and shell shock, so...
And I think with the shell shock and PTSD, I think that after the First World War, that's when conversation kind of started about mental health. And I think that actually Virginia Woolf, through the Septimus character, started some conversation because she actually made an effort to acknowledge that there was even something such as a mental illness.
Yeah, so I guess we're both saying the same thing here, which is we believe that Septimus' suicide was not caused by his PTSD or by his war crimes, but also it was mainly by the fear of his doctors.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important that if you are struggling with any mental health issue or want to talk to someone about how you're feeling, that you should find someone who makes you feel comfortable and safe, not someone who makes you feel worse about you or your situation, and I think that can make all the difference in getting better.
Yeah, and if you guys need help, here's some resources to help you if you're struggling with depression, anxiety, or PTSD, shell shock, or any other mental illness.
There's the Trevor Project, the National Alliance on Mental Health, or NAMI, and the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Thank you guys for listening to us today. If you would like to see more of this channel, you can click the subscribe button and click the bell to get any notifications when I post.
Hey, and if you like this video, smash that like button right here. Let's do it.
And thank you to Christian for coming and talking with me today.
No problem. I had a blast.
Bye.
Bye.
Live my day as if it was the last. Live my day as if there was no past. Doing it all night, all summer. Doing it the way I wanna. Yeah.